Yeah, I want to introduce a young man to you this evening, Mr. Archie Brown. He is going to be mayor for the moment, so he's going to start us off tonight. You Tell him it's 7:03 and we're going to start.
So it's 7:03 and we're gonna start.
Have to go. Make it official.
Dear God, thank you for hearing us. Thank you for loving us. Please bless our town. Please guide us through this meeting with wisdom and kindness. We love you in Jesus' name. Amen.
That's American flag, and lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Make a prayer with you. That was a thrill. That's good. We have any green cards?
I
This
have not
time
seen
we're
any of them.
in public forum, and I don't see any green cards presented at this time. So we'll go on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that the council may act with one single vote if the council wishes. They may pull any item from the consent agenda, discuss, and act upon individually. The only thing we have on the consent agenda is last month's agenda.
Minutes.
What is the wishes of the body?
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Under business items, number one, A is discuss and take action on police department donating the Chamber of Commerce building located at 121 East Henderson Street to a 501c3. And Blake, our lawyer, if you'd like to comment on that.
Sure, so when the building was donated from the chamber to the city, at that time, the intended use was to use that building as the police department. As a result, there was a negotiated term in the deed, which is not uncommon, that stated if the building was ever used for any purpose other than a police department, then it would revert the building, the ownership of the building would revert back to the chamber. So that language is in the deed, which at this point would prohibit us from conveying it on to another 501c3. Now, it doesn't mean that that can't happen at some point in the future, but we're gonna have to get that deed language cleaned up, and that's probably gonna require some discussion for what, if anything, is left of the chamber. If there's nothing left of the chamber in terms of a board that we can deal with, then we may need to reach out to the Attorney General's office. The AG has oversight over 501c3 organizations in the state of Texas, which the chamber is, so can accept donations. So I say all that to say this, I think it's in our best interest to table that tonight, given the current deed language. And then we can work some of these issues with the deed relative to the reverter clause in it. So my recommendation would be we table it and let me look at those things, and maybe we can bring it back in April and get something done.
Okay. Motion.
I motion to table it. Second.
A motion and second to table it till next month's meeting. Any discussion? Well, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Discuss and take action on municipal development district's recommendation for $20,000 for replacing two 10-inch valves in the main line. Shane, do you have a comment on these or anything? This is page 13 of your OMDD minutes where they passed two of these things, if you'd like to look at it.
There's two 10-inch valves going out of East Henderson here. And it's we've got some valves between town and the well out there that do not work. That's not to replace all those valves, it's just to replace a couple of those valves to where we could at least isolate town to where we would not lose all of the town whenever we have a fracture in one of the main water lines. So that's what that's regarding.
OMDD did pass this and approved it, so it's up to us whether to approve it or not.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion, questions?
Shane, how many more valves is
There's, well, I think there's 4 total from what our maps show, but our maps are a lot of times wrong. So, 2 will get us going. We'll be able to, probably, we're gonna replace, the first one that we'll replace is gonna be right past Willow Creek Apartments, so that we could shut that valve and it would save Willow Creek Apartments back towards town. And then we'll just go from there. We gotta get another one out there by the well, so that when we get that tank clean, we can, shut that valve and isolate the tank from that tank and be able to just feed off the well 7. And then there's 2 more up closer to town. So that needs to be replaced, but those 2 will get us going. That'll get us going.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Discuss and take action on resolution number 2023-03-16, a resolution to City of Overton, Texas, to delay imposition of the 2023 annual GRIP adjustment by Centerpoint Energy. This is something they just want us, that Centerpoint Energy actually wants us to do right now until the cities come together on this. If you read it in the package on pages 9 through 11 of your packet, it tells you the reasoning for it. And it's just something they want us to do and they'll come back and tell us, okay, it's time to pass it. When we get it right together, we'll agree with their rate, increase.
motion to delay.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and second. Any discussion by anyone? No questions? Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes 5-0. And the second one by Overton Municipal Development District, discuss and take action on Overton Municipal Development District's recommendation of Overton Youth Sports Association request for financial assistance in the amount of $9,000 allocation and getting fields and facility ready for the baseball season. Requesting party is the treasurer of OYSA, Jennifer Chapman. The Chapmans are here if you've got any questions about anyone. Just kind of get them, everything's rough right there, that know that building has, I talked to them before this came on. If you have, like I say, if you have any questions, you may ask them. But that building's been broken in several times. We're trying to get back into the, concession stand. Couldn't think of the word. Concession stand area and out of that metal building that they were in. They need to bring it up to electrical code and some plumbing has been broken in it, things like that. Y'all got anything else you think of that I'm forgetting?
Backstop nets.
Oh, yeah.
Field maintenance, parking lot expansion, lot of things.
Can you ask questions?
Yeah.
That, the backstop nets, that was for what?
That was for the large field, the backstop net that's currently up there to stop, foul balls from flying over and hitting people, has been torn, so it's split in half.
Okay. And then the expansion of the, what'd you say, parking?
The upper parking lot and fixing the lower parking lot, cleaning it up.
I think there's 9,000, wasn't that supposed to handle, what, 4 or 5 of your first priority main things, but not to handle everything. They had a list of nearly 22,700, was it?
Yes, sir.
Something like that?
Yes, sir.
22,700 is what they had the list, so they're doing a lot of it themselves, but they just need this was kind of dumped in their lap at the last minute, kind of situation, and they're trying to get things on the ground.
That upper parking lot where you talking about the gravel to go?
Yes, sir.
Is that part, that's from what I understand on the, there was a map or a set of plans drawn out by Reggie Thompson as far as the, Overton Sports Complex.
Yes, sir.
And the way I understand it, that's supposed to take in that right there, cause that's part of city property. And if it does, so if you dump rock right there, isn't that gonna make you have to move that rock later or waste that rock?
If we get the funding to end up doing an expansion in the future, yes, it will go away, but we need to remedy that solution right now because we don't have the parking for the amount of traffic that comes in there. So we need that extra parking because it's a disaster. People are parking on that one lane entrance and exit coming in and out, and then you end up having stalls when we have 2 games at a time where you need a,
Is that,
we need Chief Poole there to coordinate
that's,
traffic.
but that is the road you widened out, it looks like
I
it's a
did,
lot wider
I
now.
did,
Yeah,
I wind up my tractor.
yeah. And,
A lot of stuff we're doing also, just for everyone to know, is there's a ton of volunteer people coming in, and you could see, ask Mayor Gilbert.
Yeah, they had a lot of people
On
out
field
there
day, we
volunteering that day.
30
first
people
day.
out there. We have a good turnout, we have a really proactive board right now. We're trying to, like I said to the OMDD, we're trying to compete with Henderson and Kilgore to retain our youth and keep them here. They have multi-million-dollar complexes, so we wanna make our field as nice as we can, because the more people we retain here, the more people are gonna shop in the city. We want to draw people to our town, we don't want them to seek other places for stuff that we can provide. So we're willing to put the hard work in and the labor in. Like last night, we were there mowing till almost 8:45 at night and cleaning and spraying for ants. We're trying to make it nice, but we do need help. We need help.
I say this is just 9,000 out of a $22,000 expense thing. They've got 9, y'all got 9 or 11,000 or something like that, and they're gonna do some fundraising and so forth. But the OMDD did pass this, so what would you like to do?
I've got a question for city manager. Have you had a chance to, it doesn't sound like, but have you had a chance to sit down and get specifics for, all the things that the baseball association is asking to do? I know they were granted $9,000, but you were asking some questions a while ago, and what I'm getting at, have you had, sat down and had communication with them?
not other than the OMDD meeting the other evening, that's all we've had.
Is this maybe something we should delay until, our city manager sits down with them and works out some details?
Well, this, like I say, this just covered the top 4 or 5 items that they had on their list.
Yes, I understand that.
What they came with, Reggie, was preparing a long-range thing, for our new fields. And when I discussed with Mr. Chapman about it earlier, I said, okay, we need to separate those two. So that's a long range, okay, this is what's gonna get you on the field this year, and that's what this is gonna do. And the problem is, if we delay this a month, I mean, the baseball season starts, so if you delay it a month, where are they at? And like I said, OMDD heard all their comments. If you need to ask some more questions, feel free to ask some questions.
Just one question, if if it's legal to do this, since the council has some questions, is it all right to table this and have a special call meeting? Or-
Sure, I mean, if a majority wants to table it, have a special meeting, you certainly can do that. But that'll be up to the, as the mayor says, that'll be up to the body.
Pass it, table it, let me know something, I gotta talk. Mr. Chapman,
Is it open for me to talk, or can I ask something?
you have questions for Mr. Chapman or Ms. Chapman? Y'all let me know.
Can I ask him to
Come up here.
please
Come
come
to
up
the
and
mic.
talk?
Yeah.
Sure.
You don't have it on your list, do you? I don't have it, I didn't bring it with me.
No, sir, I left that with the OMB.
That's
You
okay.
need to turn it on.
Test 1, 2. Does anyone have any specific questions for me? The baseball season's gonna start, in a few weeks, and I feel like this is stuff that's pertinent, to get us going. And like I'm saying, we need help. We're all volunteers. We do have money. We have put a bunch of money and labor into it already. We're using our own equipment, our own tractors, our own supplied mower. We're doing fundraisers, but we can't make the city's facilities good without everyone's help here. We need your help.
Now, I would like to pitch in just a little bit, cause I went up there and, me and Reggie went up there and looked at that facility about 4 months ago, and it was desolate, it looked terrible. And, it didn't start looking better till Reggie Thompson and Fred Whiteman with the golf course come in there and started doing some work to it, and mowing it, putting sprinkler system. Matter of fact, there's some of the sprinkler systems not even out there that goes to it. So I think there was some work that had been done to it before y'all got there. Just in their defense, there was some things that have already been taking place.
It's seasonal.
That's the one field.
Yeah, that's
But the other field.
that's the problem, with that deal. It's been seasonal for the last several years, but everything I keep hearing from different people is like, this can be a sports complex, we can come in here, and it can be, it can be like 10 months out of the year, we can have it really going on. But when we try to jump up there and, or the baseball association tries to jump up there and do something, it's very, very seasonal, so it's like, and this has been going on since my son was a youngster. It would be like, it's baseball season, so I'll run out there and get that place cleaned up right quick.
Right.
And that's what we do. We go out there and get it cleaned up right quick, and then it would go back to nature after that. So and that's the way I seen this about 4 months ago. It was desolate, it had been gone, it was terrible, really. I mean, basically, it was breaking our city ordinance. But our baseball association was supposed to be over it, and it wasn't being taken care of. So thankfully, Reggie and Fred come in there and started taking care of that. So I don't wanna sell them short on not doing anything, cause they've done a lot to that baseball field in that amount of time. So, I mean, and I'm sure y'all did too.
As far as mowing,
Mowing, sprinklers, plow, I mean, my tractor and tiller's up there. Been up there for several months now, so, that's my personal stuff, so I know it was up there myself.
Yeah.
And they was using it, Fred and Reggie. So, I don't wanna sell them short by no means, things not being done, so.
Oh, yeah. You have any questions? Now it's time to ask them.
So, what about the plans that was, with the sports complex?
for expansion.
Is that still on, or?
That is a whole nother very expensive topic, so we have not pursued that yet with the OMDD and with
Well, that went before OEDC, cause you're the president of that.
Yeah, it went before.
other people brought that before, not me, so.
Reggie
This is a new board. We've seen the plans, we've talked about it. That's something that we need to still discuss.
Now, this is city property now. This is city property. It's not the Overton Baseball Association property, it's city property.
Right.
So we've gotta keep that in mind
So we
too.
need to keep it up. What it did, I went out there and talked with Mr. Chapman, at first and showed me around what needed to be fixed. And I told him he might come before one of the boards, and the reason I said OMDD, because it was the first one to be met, because their seasons, they were already signing up players and the season's about to begin. And all I told him was, I said, you might make it reasonable. He showed me the list. I think that first list was like 21,500, and then y'all must have found a couple more things, and it went up to 22,700, something like that. And I just told him you might come before the board with a reasonable thing, probably try to keep it under 10,000 if you could. And they did that very thing, and like I said, this just addresses some of the more important needs that they got to get in place, and they came before with 9,000. So they did what I asked them to do, and the OMDD, passed it. So now it's up to us to do one. But if we don't pass it tonight, if we're thinking about a special call meeting, like they said, they're about to start baseball. So we're gonna be talking about a special call meeting probably within a couple of weeks. So it's either pass it now or we can't wait a month. Then they need an answer, so they can either get things fixed or let the kids go over to Henderson. And that's what I was afraid. I thought it was literally, before I talked to them, I thought Overton baseball was gonna die this year. If it dies out there 1 year, you're not gonna get it started back up.
It almost did.
Everybody's kids are gonna go to Henderson.
It almost did.
It almost did.
Luckily, we had enough people volunteer on the board to get a new board, and everyone's kind of enthusiastic right now. I really feel like if this isn't supported, that it's gonna be a tough blow. Because we're trying to do the best we can. And to our defense, when we got there at the beginning of the season, the field was in very much disrepair. There was a ton of things we've done already that nobody's taken care of. So we've put in a ton of hours as a board and a community to get things where they're at now. So there's a ton of stuff that's not being maintained.
Your infield, you're on that main baseball field, you're saying it was just,
No, the
No.
infield was good on the big field. That's
Big field
the
was-
best it's
big
looked in
field
years.
good, but you're talking about the concession stand, you're talking about the parking lot,
All
you're
the
talking about the other
bleachers,
baseball, the smaller field.
both
and
bathrooms
all
not
of it.
working.
Both that, yeah.
We've done a lot of stuff out there with our own money.
that's association's money.
Yes, sir, yeah, money that we.
How much do y'all have in it?
I wanna say we have, close to 18,000 right now, but registrations are going through and uniforms, and that's probably gonna bring us back down to about 6 or 7. Insurance, Dixie franchise,
Is that, like, when you say insurance, that insurance, general liability, like where you provide a general liability to
for every
the,
team.
and you provide a copy of your GL to the city, or?
I don't know if it's back to the city, I have to get.
That's for the players, isn't it?
That's for the players on every team,
Yeah,
yeah.
players on every team, yeah.
That's insurance through Dixie Baseball.
Blake, should they have insurance?
This is something baseball association does.
Blake, should they have insurance general liability insurance to provide to the city, just for liability reasons for the city?
You're talking about adding, well, I guess I'd wanna see the policy and see how broad it is. Does it cover, most of those policies will cover not only players on the field, but spectators or anyone using the facility. So it just depends on how broad it is. And then the other way to do that is to make the city an additional insured under the policy. And I don't know what Dixie's position on that is, but I've seen that done before where, I believe Tyler, the Little League, they're affiliated with Little League and Tyler, not Dixie. I believe the Little League policy there covers everybody at the facility. So if somebody slips and falls, it would be covered by Little League. Now, if Little League discovers that it's due to some condition of the property of neglect by the city, then that can change, but there's no real good way to answer that question, Shane, unless I knew how broad that policy
Sure.
was.
Council have any questions? Now time to ask them. What's the wishes of the council? My recommendation is to go with the recommendation of the OMDD board. For my 2 cents. So the OMDD board is not made like the OEDC. Anything that the OMDD board passes has to come before the council. Whereas the OEDC doesn't have to, they're limited at $10,000. So that's the reason it's on the agenda.
Question.
Motion to approve.
I got a question. Again, how long does, the season, the baseball season last? When does it end?
That runs into May,
To May, and it stops in May?
yes.
Okay, so,
I think the playoffs go into June. Playoffs go into June.
okay, so if they stop playing in, let's say, June, so, is anybody gonna still maintain the property after that?
Well, I'm the new field commissioner, so my goal is to keep it playable.
And the only thing I would ask also, if you guys would, communicate with the city on everything that's going on out there. Because of the neglect from years prior years, rather.
That's kind of the approach we're taking now, is really trying to get the city involved with us, because like I said, we can't do it on our own. So either the city wants to have a nice ball field for our youth to play at, and to retain those people here in our community, or we can let it go to disrepair, and we can go play in Kilgore or Henderson, and not have to spend my nights mowing till 9 o'clock at night and taking care of the field. You know what I mean? I'm really trying to make a facility here for the kids, in our town that we can be proud of. And I'm being honest, I'm not trying to be too blunt, but I need help. We can't do it alone. It's too much.
Any more questions? Need a motion to approve, motion table, something, y'all gotta give me something.
Well, is there some way we can guarantee that this is gonna be maintained, like, there's gonna be some kind of follow-up to make sure everything's maintained? Not up to, some elite standard, but to a standard as it goes forward past the baseball seasons, that it's kept up, kinda like Chris was talking about a check-in, to make sure everything's being kept up like we're supposed to do, and kinda follow along, and y'all let us know if there's something that needs to be done, just kinda keep that, some kind of guarantee will keep this line of communication open.
I don't think
Is there
there's,
a way to do that?
I don't think there's ever a guarantee, because the board is voluntary. It's not a paid or lifetime position. So people are constantly resigning and coming in, new members, so I can't give my word and say to you, yes, this is gonna be maintained year round, because I don't know how long I'm gonna volunteer. I've been volunteering for almost 8 years. My son came up through the program, and now I got a little girl in T-ball in the program. So I really try to be involved where they're at. So I see myself being there for a while now, because she's 5, and I like to be involved and help out where I can. So can I guarantee that the field is gonna be perfect year round? No, I can't, because we're so small. We have other things that go on. We have basketball, we have our lives and properties to take care of, but when the playing season comes around, that's when we really focus on keeping things nice. And one thing that hasn't been done in the past that we're talking about doing this year is having a shutdown. We have a field cleanup day to start the year. We wanna have a field shutdown day to shut everything down, lock everything up for the season properly, so that will help.
And that's just this season, what you're talking about,
Yes, sir.
particularly.
Yes, sir. And some things that I'd like to do different in the off season this year to maintain is maintain the infields by spraying all my grass killers and the fence lines, you know, stuff that should be happening every couple months to keep that stuff down. That's a big part of when you're coming in, everything's overgrown, all the infields are overgrown, having to bring my tractor out and till up the small field, because I think Shane took care of the big field this year. But it's a lot of work to get fired up, so. Yeah, funding helps with that stuff.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any questions, anyone? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Chapman, appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all. Come out to the baseball field this season, see what we're doing.
I will.
Guess I gotta read all this stuff, don't I? Huh? Number E, discuss and take action, planning and zoning recommendation from 3/9/23 meeting. This is pages 15, 16 of your packet. Variance and application for a special exemption, ZBA 2021-11-18 to the City of Overton zoning ordinance regulations for a manufactured home to be allowed on a tract of land legally described as 0.39 acres more or less situated in the Mary Hughes Survey, abstract 471, Smith and Russ Counties, Texas, as described in deed dated April 6, 2001, from Lewis Parmex et al. At your A3 et al. Volume 5793, page 231, official record for Smith County, Texas, requesting party and SE Real Estate LLC. Number 2, variance application for a special exemption ZBA 2021-11-18 to the City of Overton zoning ordinance regulations for a manufactured home to be allowed on tract of land legally described as 5.570 acres more or less situated in J.T. McDaniel Survey, abstract 557, lot 2, block 18, Russ County, Texas, as described in deed dated October 2nd, 98, from AC North First United Pentecostal Church in volume 2096, page 839, file number 34168, official record of Russ County, Texas. Requesting party is Eric Stephen Hicks of Truth Tabernacle Church at this location. We do know that these were, had the letters sent out as they are required to do to the landowners around about, and there were no opposition letters sent back at that time. One person came in after they had actually adjourned at that time, and they weren't really opposed, they just wanted to know where it was gonna be at, and that's the only question they had, so.
Where is it?
Sir?
Where is this gonna be?
One's behind Truth Tabernacle, you know where Well 7 is? Out that way?
3053.
30-53. Church on the left going out
Oh, okay.
30-53.
Yeah.
They're gonna put it up behind their church on, I don't know where exactly, up behind the church there, in the property that they own.
Well 7's up on the hill there, and you just kinda, if you're driving up to Well 7, it'd be kinda over to the left, back behind the church, is what I understand.
And you'll have to tell them where this other one's at.
It's
Out-
on Front Street.
Huh?
Front Street.
Front Street. Okay.
Does it say where at on front?
1506
And a half.
and a half, 1506 and a half Front Street.
Where's the reading of that?
It's in the
I wrote it
minutes
that
on the
way.
other.
Oh, it's not in there.
I just read it,
That's,
but it should know.
She's number one. She's the first one.
Right.
Is that her right there?
Yes.
Ms. Essie?
Yeah, Josie, it's.
Miss
if you
Ruby.
Walk outside, cross the railroad tracks, that's where it's at, right there.
Okay, across the railroad track.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay,
That's the ball field.
no.
Just, the ball
Bobby,
field's
just a
a
little
Front
bit further.
Street.
to the, other corner, but it's not too far from the ball field. If you pass the ball field, turn left, follow that road, and it's, you reach the first mobile home, there's a vacant lot, that's the vacant lot.
Okay, so if you go down 135 and take a right on Front Street and come over the railroad tracks and head back towards town,
It'll be like, you have the cluster of mobile homes, then you have like 2 single-family homes, and then you have a little space, and then another single-family home, and then another space, and another mobile home. That space is the one we're talking about.
there's some.
So several mobile homes over
There
there.
used to be a mobile home on that property before.
There did used to be?
Yes,
Okay,
Is there some ribbons and stuff out there, or what?
well, there's flags.
Flags? Okay, I thought I'd seen something.
Yeah, survey flags, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Are y'all familiar with what she's talking about?
Yeah.
yeah, no, no.
I think that's right before you get to where chicken wings.
John Henry Squire.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know all these people.
So you want a motion for both?
Well, like I say, they were both approved by the zoning board, and no opposition to either one. So, yes, sir.
Motion to discuss.
Well, you don't have to have a motion to discuss. We need a motion first,
I'll make the motion to approve.
okay?
I'll second the motion.
Now, is there any discussion?
I've got some discussion here. Members of the city council, you're being asked to make a concession to a long-standing ordinance denying mobile homes, manufactured homes, and buildings of this category to be placed outside a mobile home park. I believe the ordinance in question is Article 4.06.007, which is titled Mobile Homes Prohibited, Manufactured Homes Outside Park Prohibited. This is in October 7th of 2014. A city ordinance to me is a minimum standard of excellence that citizens expect the mayor and city council members to abide by. While the home or homes in question would certainly be bringing in needed tax dollars, I will point out there's good tax dollars and there's better tax dollars. Traditional home might provide better tax dollars as well as increase the value of the homes in the neighborhood. Would not more potential tax dollars be created if a traditional style home were built or moved on the property? This is an ordinance that has been interrupted several times in the past years. If we, as the governing body of the city of Overton, continue to allow this to happen, as past councils have done, then we should entertain the idea of allowing all mobile homes and manufactured homes, etc., to be placed on private property of our citizens without question. I am not against mobile homes or manufactured homes. I am against violating ordinances unless it is deemed an emergency or in the best interest of every person in this city. I do respect the landowners for their effort to provide a clean, comfortable, and affordable home for their families. I appreciate their initiative in asking this council for relief from the ordinance.
Are y'all familiar with the ordinance as far as where the manufactured homes, where we're zoned for manufactured homes? It's really not my part to say, but you might want to table it. Let's look at that to where y'all are all familiar with that, to where we all know what we're talking about and voting on for sure.
But now, this area does have several mobile homes out there, and it's going back into a place where mobile homes evidently at some time have been approved to be there. That's
Just
why
like he just said, in the past, our ordinance has been violated. So maybe we need to familiarize our council with that right there to where we all know what we're doing before we do it.
Well, I was told that the ordinance is not set in concrete. And the reason why we had this come before council is to keep somebody from putting a modular home on Kingsway or something like that. So I was told it was okay as long as it comes before council. That way we'll have the say of where it can actually go.
Eric, I just add one thing real quick. If it's tabled, I wouldn't mind, so this is the first I've heard of this particular issue. And I do think, if I recall, that our zoning ordinance breaks our city into specific zoning districts. Residential, multifamily, commercial, whatever it might be. And so, when you're talking about putting or allowing land to be used in a way that's outside of that zoning district, usually the only way that can happen is if it's allowed in the zoning ordinance by what's called a special use permit, which is sometimes called a special exception, which is kind of what we're talking about here today. So if you look at the zoning district use chart on our ordinance, I'm sure it will have an X on all the uses that are allowed, and then it may have an S that says, but this use would be allowed through a special use permit. So if the decision to table this, if that's what the decision of the council is, I'd like to look at and have time to look at the zoning ordinance to see what's this zoning district? Is it single family residential or single family, whatever it may be designated? And then two, are manufactured homes allowed there by special use permit or not? And then the only other legal issue I would say that we have potentially, if there was a manufactured home there prior to the ordinance being passed, then it's considered grandfathered. What the occupations code says is you have the right, if you have a manufactured home somewhere in town that's grandfathered, you have the right to remove it one time and replace it.
You can.
You can remove it one time and replace it by law, but it's gotta be either newer or the same size or bigger. So there's quite a few moving parts here on a manufactured home going into an area that's not zoned for it. And if the wish of the council was to table, I wouldn't mind taking a look at that prior to the next meeting.
Yeah, at this time, we have one motion before us, motion and second to proceed. What is the wish? Any other questions? We have to vote on this motion before we come up with another. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. One, three, raise your hands again. I want to see the hands. 3 in favor. All those opposed, raise your right hand. 2. Motion passes 5-2. 3-2. 3-2. Motion to approve. Is that okay, Blake?
Yeah, and I don't know anything about this particular situation. I would say this, if there's any issues that are kind of relevant to the matters I just discussed, then I'm certainly happy to look at it more. And if we needed to come back and revisit it at some point, we could, but,
I will get educated before we have another one. I guarantee it.
okay.
Number F, discuss and take action on getting real estate value for the current city hall located 1200 South Commerce Street and listing with realtor.
Make a motion, we go ahead and do that.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Yes, sir.
Nobody ever wants to hear from the lawyer. We can't list property with a realtor.
Okay.
So
Take bids?
we have to do it by competitive sealed bid. The weird thing about this is a home rule city in Texas can list property with a realtor. So a home rule city is a city above 5,000 people that has passed a city charter. So that would be the Hendersons, Kilgores of the world, they're home rule cities. They can list property with a realtor. For whatever reason, the legislature has not allowed general law cities to do that. So we would need to do this by competitive sealed bid, or public auction. I would certainly recommend sealed bid over public auction.
Should we go ahead and get a real estate value so we'll know approximate value of it?
You bet. I don't think there's anything wrong with moving forward with getting an appraisal or some value done.
Okay,
A realtor could help you with that, or a licensed real estate appraiser could.
okay,
And then from there, we would need to word, a notice for the newspaper and our website for the competitive sealed bids to meet all the statutory requirements, which is really easy. But we just can't list it with a realtor.
folks, that's why you got a lawyer, man. April, you still want to?
Well, I'll make a motion, we get at least a appraisal on it.
Okay,
Second.
motion second to get the property appraised for possible sale next alignment. What's, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, can I say something real quick?
Yes, sir.
That's fine, but what I wanna say is this, before we move forward with taking bids on this thing, there are certain requirements that the police department has to make through the state.
Oh,
So make sure, please, so we're not occupying somebody else's building, you let me know before you do that. We may not be ready to go yet.
We'll kind of keep you in touch, Brian.
I appreciate it.
Discussing, anything? Discuss and take action on having Trades Day, third weekend of the month on Commerce Street with vendors paying $20 per month. I know we'll have to come up with an ordinance on this. What happened here, Archie Sawyer, at the flea market, new flea market downtown, approached me, and I thought about fruit vendors or something like that coming down there sometime. Approached me with the prospect, he thought it would really go over nicely here. And I told him, well, we might try one voluntarily, and just, I wouldn't even think about asking a fee this first time, just see, you know, if he's interested. But then he's talking about third weekend, and the third weekend next month, if we did wanna come up, actually come before our council meeting next time. So, I didn't wanna let this go on, and on my word, I want the council's decision on this, whether you're in favor or not. As of right now, I think he's got 24 people that are interested in setting up booths. All we have to do right now is furnish trash cans, and they're supposed to police it up. We got a form somewhere, right here. I wanna see these, you can see them, I didn't think about passing out.
Who's gonna police it up?
Actually, they are going to, there's a person that they know of for, I mean, they're gonna clean up there, I don't even wanna police it up. But they've got a person that is volunteering to do security for them. They're gonna come and set up a tent. I've already talked to this with Brian, he's okay with it. To do security, I think he works security over at Longview somewhere at one. And he's willing to come over here and do security for them. It's only gonna be Friday and Saturday, and he's gonna stay over Friday night.
So we're gonna go against our ordinance as far as what we said we'd do over at the community building, and the police department here at Overton has to provide security,
No, sir.
but yet we're gonna let this go on and not the police department, so
I'm,
I'm kinda confused
I
about the ordinance
totally-
once again.
Only for alcohol at
it's only when they have alcohol over there.
Oh,
Yeah, it's only over when they have alcohol at the community that they have to have police department.
okay.
And I totally, I talked to Brian totally about this, and I told Shane that they were interested in it. Brian was okay with their security. I told him right at the first that, we would not have a police officer there at night to enforce it or anything, that they'd have to be secure, or take their stuff back home and set it up the next day. I don't care what they do. But it's totally their responsibility. The city's not liable, and if you'll look at that form, did you read it?
I did.
Do you have a problem with it?
No, I don't have any objection to it. It's got two things I like. It's got an indemnity provision and a liability section in there, and so it checks the boxes from them.
We did not have a form for this. Miss Lisa, looked at, several forms, Kilgore, Henderson, Longview,
Even other states.
3 or 4, and she just put all these together and came up with one, Henderson, I mean, some of them require background checks and everything else on them. So we cut some of that out, but we did have that the city is not liable in any way for anything. And, I told them we'd furnish trash cans, that's it. And so, and we do have to do an ordinance for anything raising funds of any type. And we can, if y'all wanna try it this first time without funds, I'm fine, but whatever y'all wanna do. He's waiting on me, word, Nat, he said several wanted to come up today and sign up for it. But I didn't have this form ready at that time.
Who's responsible for claiming the $20 a boot?
He said he'll do it either way, he says he'll send them up to the city to do it. He said he'd be glad to collect it down there, have them fill out the form, we can go down there and pick up the form.
And someone not from the city is going to organize?
Huh?
Someone
He's
from the city?
kind of been calling around the vendors, some he knows. But he said he'd do it either way, if we want to send him up to the building to fill this out and pay it up there, or he'd be glad to do it, I mean.
Are there some set hours?
Huh?
Are there set hours for this?
No, it's just Friday and Saturday, so those 2 days, I don't know. They'll probably shut it down before dusk, I would think, but I don't think you didn't put set hours in here, did you? I don't think so.
Mayor, to answer your question,
Yes, sir.
the sole fact of raising money would not be what would require the ordinance, but if we're gonna have some regulations and some rules on how this is gonna be operated, then we would wanna pass an ordinance with those regulations and rules, only because if we don't really have any way of enforcing it.
Okay.
So if we get somebody up there that is not following the rules and regulations that we've set forth, other than telling them to leave, there's not much we can do about it. If they told us, no, I'm not gonna leave, we can't write them a citation, we can't do anything.
So,
They will not be invited back the next time.
Right.
Archie and I had talked about some of those, if they don't follow the rules, they won't be coming back,
so
so.
there's, do they bring anything to sell here?
Hmm.
Do they bring whatever to sell? I mean, is there livestock coming into town, or chickens, poultry, I mean, I don't.
That 10x10 slot, ain't gonna pick very many cows in that. No, I don't know, it's mainly arts and craft type things.
So you could have quail and dove.
Again, they do over at, Liberty.
Section City.
Section City, not Liberty City, Section City.
I'm just wanting to bring
Yeah,
that
I don't
out
know.
there so everybody understands, that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, it could be a variety of things, and we won't find out till we have it the first time who all will come, so. So it's whatever you want to do, if you don't wanna have it, don't wanna have it.
Can you
You
have
wanna
chicken
charge
fights on the other side of the track?
And what?
Chicken fights on the other side of the track?
That's illegal, you go to jail.
Oh, okay. On the ash.
Never mind, I better not say that.
You can gamble, as long as the house don't take a cut.
What's the wishes of the body? Like I say, Mr. Archie had pretty well, gotten it together. If y'all wanna let it go free this first time, just to see it out for them and see whether they're interested in coming back. Hey, everybody sleeps in around here Saturday morning anyway, they don't wanna get any business till noon. I walk the streets, ain't anybody else, so. Or if you wanna go ahead and charge them this first time, whatever you wanna do, I'm approachable with, he just approached me, so I'm approaching y'all.
If I can make a suggestion, I would say not charge, and that way we don't feel obligated if we don't like what's going on. Or, you know, just this first time to see what goes on, just to see how it goes.
I'll make a motion on change recommendation,
On what?
on his recommendation.
Not charge.
Can you word change recommendation?
Am I correct? They can gamble as long as the house don't take a cut? I'm just, I mean, like,
May I step up here and say something since I'm.
Yes, sir, please, say something.
I think personally, as the police chief, concerned, person for the community, I think it's a good thing. However, I do think that, just like the city attorney said, that there needs to be some type of ordinance to prohibit certain things. because if there is a problem down there, the police department get called down there, then we're gonna be expected to satisfy the safety of the public.
Right.
What we have to have is we have to have some teeth to be able to do that. And the teeth we get is through the laws that are passed. Another thing that I think you would not want, and even though I thought it was kind of funny, the city manager bring up the birds and, you know, the bees and all that stuff. I don't think that you would want something there being sold that our citizens were prohibited by ordinance from owning inside the city to begin with or having inside the city. So if that makes sense to you, I do think it would be a very beneficial thing to have. Because I think anything that we as a community can do to help bring tax dollars to the city is gonna benefit us all in the long run. And then maybe one day we won't have to worry about a ball field being taken care of or something like that. We'll have the money that we need to do that already. But I do think that there are certain things that need to be considered, like Blake said.
Are the vendors required to have a tax number, tax ID number to where they pay sales tax?
I don't know, did most trade they do that? I was wondering about that over.
And also, Mayor, if you're gonna allow, you know, if he's gonna have people come in who is selling food, like cooking barbecue or something like that, this is what happens at trade stands. We need to get with the county health inspector
Right.
and things of that nature. They're gonna have to be permitted, I would imagine.
Okay.
That's not something the police department
No.
wants to take on either, that's, we're gonna leave that up to
They're definitely
city
gonna have to be,
manager.
that's Russ
Okay.
County.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with the city, that's Russ County.
Where's that part at?
All those little things you have to look at.
The city, the last line in the first, paragraph says, the city of Overton reserves the right to prohibit the sale or distribution of materials that may be illegal. So,
Gosh, dog.
sorry, Shane.
So, in other words, we could vote on it or what have you, but, we still need to have an ordinance in place.
Yeah, I think at some point you're gonna have to have an ordinance, set for some kind of rules and regulations, requirements. And then as the chief said, if we get a vendor down there that's not following those, then they've got some teeth that they need to go down and enforce.
Okay.
Hopefully that never becomes an issue, but if it does, you've got something to back it up.
I shouldn't let it go this far. We do have a motion, we did have a motion to agree with what Shane said earlier. I guess about having it free this first time, basically.
I would myself,
Okay,
just for liability.
do these first time, I don't think I ever heard a second on that. Did we get a second on that? And we can be working on the ordinance and have the ordinance before next meeting.
Second.
Who made the motion?
Michael. We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Boy, we've had a lot of discussion before we got a second.
I absolutely do agree with, City Attorney Armstrong and Chief Poole that we do need to have some
We
kind of
will.
ordinance. Hopefully we can get on that.
Right, we'll have
Next,
that ready. We'll try to have that ready by next meeting. If it, I'll ask this, the next one will fall before our council meeting. Any problem with that motion if they go and have it next month also? Free. Michael Paul?
Yes.
Chris? Okay, it's okay with the second, is that okay with the motion? Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 5-0. Overton City Council, number 8, Overton City Council will convene an executive session to discuss the following matters authorized by 551072 of the Texas Government Code regarding the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on position of the governmental body in negotiation with a third person. And discussion is the lease agreement between the City of Overton and Overton Pool LLC. At this time, at 8:01, we will go into executive session.